Joining us to talk about all this is Hakan Camuz. He's a political commentator and a director at Stoke White, a London-based law firm. Hakan, thanks for joining us. I want to get to President Erdogan's election victory and what it means for Turkey in just a moment. But first, let's talk about those terror attacks in Paris. Of course, there's just been a G20 meeting in Turkey. At the beginning of that meeting, President Erdogan said the terror attack was not just against the French people, it was against the whole of humanity. But critics are saying that he's not doing enough to stop Islamic State, that he could cut off their supply routes, for instance. How would you respond to that?
I would say it's an unfair criticism because, and this is documented, Turkey has been fighting this ISIS supplies lines, as you would call it, for a long time. They've been stopping thousands of people from crossing the border. They've been stopping every financial act they actually find to be somehow belonging to them. European Union and America works very closely with the Turkish government in the last over 4 years now in order to fight ISIS and the logistics support that it gets somehow. But don't forget, Turkey has one of the biggest borders that Syria has. It's nearly 800 kilometers of border that is really, really difficult to control. But they did their best and they have been praised for their actions. And it's just been increased recently because ISIS now is being tackled by all the allies of Turkey and Turkey itself.
You know, this is a very complex situation, and there are many factions involved in this fight. The United States, for instance, supports the Kurds who are fighting Islamic State. Turkey is attacking those Kurds. I want to read to you something that David Graeber with the London School of Economics, he said this in The Guardian. He said, how could ISIS be eliminated in the region? Everyone knows. All it would take would be to unleash the largely Kurdish forces of the YPG, that's the Democratic Union Party in Syria, and PKK, Kurdistan Workers' Party guerrillas in Iraq and Turkey. First, I want to ask you, do you agree with that premise? And in that respect, doesn't Turkey's war against the PKK put it on a collision course with the United States?
Would you agree with this point if you say, well, let's support Al-Qaeda to fight ISIS? Would America actually support Al-Qaeda and give them weapons, give them supplies to fight against ISIS militants? This kind of things is a double-edged sword there. PKK and YPG is a terrorist organization, and they've been fighting Turkey, attacking soldiers, killing civilians within Turkish borders. Now, in America wants to fight ISIS through the hands of these people. It doesn't justify it. You cannot support one terrorist organization in order to fight another, because it's the same premise, supporting Al-Qaeda to fight ISIS. Does that make sense to you? It doesn't. Turkey has been fighting PKK terrorism for over 30 years now. And we've been suffering from their attacks on the civilians and police and the military, burning schools, killing innocent civilians in their houses. How would you support an organization that actually does that kind of killing in Turkey and somehow justify thinking they're going to fight ISIS for you? It doesn't make sense, does it?
Okay, let's get on to the election. Just a few months ago, President Erdogan's AKP party lost its majority in parliament. Now we have another election and a stunning reversal. How do you explain that?
To be honest with you, it's quite a surprising result. And everybody says that they didn't expect this much. But people have made a choice for stability. AK Party offers stability. AK Party offers consistency. They've been delivering on all their promises. On the last 30 years, they were in government. People know this. However, in the last election in June, they wanted to give a message to the party. Because I believe there was this disheartening about some issues that people were really concerned about in Turkey. But that message was taken quite clearly by AK Party and their upper echelons. And they've actually really learned their lesson and done their studies correctly and gave the correct message to people in Turkey. And people responded kindly. 50% of popular vote in a fair and open election is a very good result for AK Party. It just shows how powerful it is in the politics in Turkey. It cannot be denied. They've actually delivered what they say to people, and they've chosen again AK Party into the government.
Okay, now President Erdogan has the majority. What are going to be his domestic priorities?
It's clearly stated by Prime Minister Ahmet Davutoğlu that the constitution is #1 priority, economic stability and fighting terrorism, including ISIS, not just PKK, but we will fight PKK because resolving that issue will mean peace in Turkey with Kurdish minority. Without PKK, it will be, without fighting PKK, we cannot have peace. So PKK will be number one priority in dealing with, and ISIS will be. But economic stability, but number one is constitution. We need a new constitution in Turkey, because through getting a new constitution, Turkey will be much more democratic and much more dynamic country. Despite what the critics are saying about presidential system, somehow it's going to be a one-man show. It's all wrong criticism and biased analysis. Turkey needs a new constitution. Everybody knows it, and people will support this agenda that AK Party will push forward.
Does the president have the numbers in parliament to change the constitution, do you think?
No, they're missing 13 MPs to ask for a referendum, and obviously you need more than that. But just for the referendum, you need 330. They have 317. But the belief is other political parties who have now learned in this election their place in democratic system in Turkey, hopefully will support and at least go for a referendum and asking people to vote for the new constitution, which is the fair way of doing things.
You know, security was a big concern for the Turkish people during the last election, but I'm wondering to what extent do Turkish people support a change in the constitution, given that, you know, the president now has the victory he wanted?
Just a brief note, in 1982, after the military coup d'etat in Turkey, they've actually made this constitution, so it's quite old, and it was done by people who actually came into power after the military coup d'etat in Turkey in 1980. Therefore, and it's been amended in so many times in the last over nearly 30 years now. Everybody knows, and the political parties in this country are aware, and the voters in Turkey are aware of the fact that we need a new constitution. I believe they will support it, and AK Party believes that people will support the new constitution. Therefore, they will come up with a new constitution with the consensus with other political parties. Let me make a point. Last time they actually formed a commission to write up the new constitution, even though AK Party had more than 330 available MPs to go through the parliament and ask for a referendum. What they did, just to keep it as an equal measure, they asked for the same number of MPs to be involved in the commission for constitution, just so that it's embracing every section of society in Turkey. It hasn't happened. But this time around, we're hopeful that it will happen with the support of one or maybe two of the political parties.
One other big domestic issue for the president must be the economy. The Turkish economy has been flagging. In fact, growth of only 3% has been predicted, and the currency, the lira, has fallen 25% against the dollar and the euro this year. So what plans does the president have to fix that?
Because of the uncertainty that Turkey has been going through in the last 7 months, because we've gone through 2 elections in that time period. Obviously, the economy has somewhat stagnated. We all know about it. And the only way, and as he actually put it himself only a couple of days ago on one of the TV channels here in Turkey, investment in Turkey is something that they're actually really working hard to promote. And Turkey is receiving a lot of investment. Just investors actually, especially foreign investors, have been waiting for the new election results. And they now can see stable government, stable democracy, stable markets here, and they will come and invest in Turkey. It's one of the fastest growing economy in the region. We are in G20. We're the number 13, number 17 in the world, and number 7 in the European Union. This economy will thrive, and investors will invest in. And the government will do its best to facilitate investments into Turkey. So they will deal with these economic issues. It's number 1 priority for them.
Now, Turkey has also been criticized by the European Union for what the EU says are significant human rights failings. And there's a report that's been published, and it cites Turkey's crackdown on journalists and the media and on the judiciary. What do you make of the government's actions?
You've been following, obviously, what's going on in Turkey, because, you know, in several times in your program, you've actually touched on this issue. The problem we have in Turkey, especially with the media outlets here, is they are so politically divided. You need to understand, most of these people who actually claim themselves to be journalists are not somehow in prison or cases going against them because of journalism. But it's been presented as if they are somehow in trouble with the government because of their journalistic activities. No such a thing exists in this country. If anybody looked at the court papers, why these people are in trouble with the courts, it's because of their criminal activity, not journalism. Believe me when I say this, if you read Turkish newspapers, and if you could, and I wish you could, and listen to Turkish news channels here, every day, the level of insults or journalism that actually happens, and I live in London, and I actually know what standards of journalism is, believe me, very clearly. But here it becomes a political abusive tool, and that's why they get into trouble. It's not because of political crackdown on them. And don't forget, the last two incidents where newspapers were taken over by the government forces is not because of their journalistic activities. The fact that companies' owners fled from this country with billions of dollars, one living in United Kingdom, and their companies were taken over by the government, not because of their journalistic activities, but because of illegal activities. We have to respect the law.